how good this C63 Coupe is. Oh man, out of one heat wave into another. Well guys, welcome back to RBR, and today we're looking at the new A45 S. It's been a long build up on the channel to this car. We first had a look at the drift mode on the ice in Sweden, if you guys remember, and then we had a look at the engine production at the HQ back at affalterbach, and now finally, after so much teasing and build up, we're going to have the road review and the track review today here in Madrid. So now let's explore the car that AMG are calling the super sports car of the compact segment. And to do it right, let's do it the RBR way. Let's go back in time and have a look at where it all started. So in 2013, AMG did the unprecedented. They entered the hotly contested hot hatch market, no pun intended, with a small two-cylinder turbo engine car that was the original A45 AMG. It had a simple Holdex four-wheel drive system which was biased to the front, and it quickly proved itself to be one of the most accessible, fun and loudest AMGs that you could buy at the time. We had the facelift as well, and the A45 over time proved that that small engine combination with the character of the big engine AMGs in a small hot hatch made by AMG to look like a flagship AMG was a winning formula for their customers. After this came the new A-Class. Now this became the tech king of the entire Mercedes-Benz range, a much more grown-up car, both inside and out. And the first AMG we got in this series was actually the A35. And this car was very much like the previous A45, using the exact same type of four-wheel drive front biased Holdex system. It had a very similar 2-litre single turbo engine as well. It shared the brakes, it shared the driving character and the handling, essentially like a down-powered version of the A45. A good car, but then you're left wondering, where does this new A45 S fit in? Is it just more of the same? Now, of course, we know from our previous videos that this beast is completely different in every single area. It's got a whole new type of engine. It's got a whole new gearbox, completely different chassis and reinforcement, a completely different body style to how the 45s were made before, and most importantly, now a completely unique drive system for the four-wheel drive that allows drift mode. So let's break this car down in every single area and show you what's been done. Now, when we did the engine tour at affalterbach, you saw that it's, although a similar engine in terms of the basics, the way that it's been created and the cooling that goes on and the amount of power that's thus being able to be produced in this is much higher than the previous one. So we have got in this S model 421 brake horsepower, and it's going to be a much more reliable and hopefully a less laggy engine than the last one as well. To get the full lowdown on how AMG got more power out of this car and achieved better cooling, you can check out our exclusive look behind the scenes of how that new engine is created in a whole new facility at AMG. I'll leave the link in the description box below. I also mentioned there's a new gearbox, so this engine is now mated to an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. We're going to see how that goes through the cogs later. And then there's been a lot of rigidity added to this car. We've got an aluminium shear plate at the bottom of the car. We've got an extra strut base between the front suspension. We've got further struts in the rear, all adding rigidity, which is hopefully going to give us a much better handling experience for this car. The suspension has also been reworked thoroughly, specifically for this 45 version. We've got McPherson struts in the front as well. But what you really want to know about is the four-wheel drive system. Now, as we said, it's completely different. Now, we've got drift mode within this car, and I want to show you exactly how that works. Now, although this is called 4MATIC Plus like you have in the E63 and the GT63S, it's not the same system, and I don't want you to confuse it as that. You must think of it more as what you have in the Focus RS. So the rear axle has got 2 separate clutches per wheel, and it allows for what AMG call AMG torque control in the rear. So each wheel has full control over the torque that it's applying. It gives better handling on track, but it allows for that drift mode and to give power to the rear of the car and achieve some really nice slides. And that's what's really going to set this car apart from both the A35 and the previous A45. The S model gets uprated brakes. There's a new steering rack with variable ratio as well. But then I mentioned that the body has taken a different styling change compared to the previous A45. So where the previous one was exactly the same in terms of its size compared to the normal A-Class, this new one is completely different from its base car, everything from the A-pillar onwards. So everything from this point onwards is unique to the AMG, except for maybe the lights. And that's very much like the E63 S, where you get a completely unique front end on the AMG. And it really shows. The front is where you get that full hit of AMG design. So let's talk about the design. We've got wider arches on both sides. They're so obvious, and it really makes this car unique. You've got the nice signature AMG bonnet bulges. Of course, you've got the full-size Panamericana AMG specific grille. Then you've got the much larger air intakes, as you would associate with AMGs. We've got the A-wing at the bottom here, as they love to call it. It's shaped like the AMG A. This car doesn't have the aerodynamic package, but I will show you what that looks like shortly. It's nice to see the full AMG style multi-spoke wheels, as you see in the GT63S, the E63. This is those designs for the first time available in 19-inch. You get the nice side sills, as I predicted you would have in our renders as well. And then if we take a look at the rear of the car, you can see that we get the quad pipes. Now the rear is probably the least changed compared to the A35. The only thing really signifying this being the 45S is those quad pipes. A lot of people find it weird that they're round as well, rather than having the quadro piezial ones that you have in the 63s. I agree, but maybe they might have an even more powerful one day that they're saving that for. We'll have to wait and see. And just to make a point of it, let's compare it directly to the A35. Now you can see how different that front end is, but the rest is similar. I would have liked to have seen maybe bigger rear arches, but that's just an aesthetic thing, not really to do with performance. Now, if we talk about spec, again, linking to the A35, we've been spoilt a bit because that car gets the aerodynamic pack with the wing as well. Now, if we add that to this car, it looks pretty damn good with the aerodynamic package. But to my eyes, then it looks even more like the A35. I almost like the car now minus aero package, because then you appreciate the styling of the 45 that much more. That's a subjective term, and I'll leave you guys to decide what you think about that. Obviously, you get different specs. If we look at the sun yellow one, a completely different beast. This is the car that we're going to take on track in a few minutes. You can see, speccing it with sun yellow and the aero pack and the night package, which is dechroming, gives you a totally different looking car. Of course, you can probably get something in red as well. You've got a choice of the other wheels, as you've seen, and there is an edition 1 coming. Apparently, it's going to look something like this. If so, it'll look pretty exciting, but we're still waiting for official pictures on that one. Now we're going to have a quick look at the interior, a bit of a sound check, and then we're going to hit the track and go on the road. Now, inside the A45 S, if you've seen our A35 videos, it's going to look all very similar to you, because you get the control switches in the A35 as well, same steering wheel. You can get the performance seats in Germany as well, so it's essentially identical. I think in the UK, the big change will be these seats, that you can get the performance seats in the A45 S. Apart from that, in terms of worldwide changes, you're going to have more color options inside the 45 series. The best one, in my opinion, being the black leather with the yellow details, which looks really good. It links nicely to C63, GT, etc. for that top-end flagship AMG interior look. Looks really, really nice if I show that to you now. Of course, compared to the previous A45, if you haven't seen any of my A-Class reviews, which I would be shocked about, this has got the most advanced system that Mercedes have ever made in terms of UI, and it's called MB User Experience, or MBUX. I've gone over it so many times in so many different videos. Check my A35 video, my A-Class video, GLE53 video, check all of them. You'll get a good idea of how good MBUX is to use. It's touchscreen, it's voice activated, there's touch buttons on the steering wheel, there's a touchpad here. You get AMG track pace, where you can do drag race times, you can do lap times, telemetry, ghost drivers to follow, etc. It's absolutely brilliant. So definitely take a look at my other videos. I'll leave links in the description box below for those. Apart from that, as I said, it's pretty standard. We have got an exhaust button, which you don't find in the A35. That does something different than just opening flaps in this car, something called AMG Real Sound, but I'm going to show you that on the actual drive. Now, in terms of sound, as always with a performance car, we have to explore what the startup and the revs are like. So let's do that right now with this new A45 S. And I'm going to start it up in Sport Plus. Not the most exciting startup in the world. Let's try the holding paddle trick that newer AMGs use. Oh, that was a lot better. We got a bit of a rumble in that. So it stays true to all the modern AMGs with rumbling if you hold the upshift paddle. Now let's give it some revs. That was a bit disappointing. I was hoping for some pops, bangs, crackles like you got in the old A45. This is probably due to regulations and stuff. I would be tempted to go to someone like Rentec or Barabbas to get an aftermarket exhaust myself personally, but we still have to see what it sounds like on the run, and we're going to do that two ways, as I said to you. First, we're going to hit the track and see what this car does on the track, and then we're going to go on road and see how it is on normal roads. So let's go and do that right now. There we go, guys. We are following Bernd Schneider, Mr. DTM himself, in the new A45S. Now, lofty claims by AMG that this is a super sports car in the compact segment. There's a lot to unpack there. The word super, the word sports car, is not something that I would really, in the past, have given to the A45. Similarly, it's not really a car that I think I would ever consider tracking as such. It's more of a really daily and fun car. But now it seems to have gone to the next level. We've looked at the power, we've looked at the stiffening done, we've looked how the four-wheel drive system is completely different. Now, let's see what do we feel on track when we're following here an AMG GTR with a DTM champion. I tell you what, first of all, I'd like to say that the steering is pretty awesome on this car. Like most modern AMGs, you're getting a lot of steering feedback. You know exactly where the wheels are. I think the width of the A45S really helps. But this one, you get a sharper kind of turn in, which is really nice. What I can definitely say feels completely different in that way to the previous A45 and indeed the A35 that we've driven extensively now. Next we come on to kind of the handling, and you just can't unstick this thing. It's got such a lovely balance to it. And when I say that, I mean the rear isn't getting unhinged. You're not feeling understeer happening. Going down the straight now, it's fast. It feels so much faster than old A45, guys. Oh, this is just exciting. I don't feel like talking sometimes when doing these track runs. One thing we can discuss, I think, is the sound. There's not a huge amount of it. It is very reminiscent of the previous A45. Of course, we've got AMG Real Sound. You're wondering what that is. I will discuss it with you shortly. They've actually named it as AMG Real Sound, and essentially is pumping real noise from the engine and intakes into the car's cabin. The new 8-speed reacts very nicely indeed. Instant shift. Oh, Bird is getting away from me. Down on the straight now. I think what I can take away from this, when we did the Bilderberg with the C63 chasing the GTR, this feels very similar to that in the sense that it doesn't feel out of place that you're driving the A45 on track, that you're chasing the AMG GTR. That bump in power to 421 brake horsepower and the increased torque that we have is a godsend, but it just doesn't feel like the same engine. It really feels a lot more like the 4-litre bi-turbo that we had in the C63, in that we haven't got the kind of lag that you would associate with a single turbo engine. See the sign on the road, noise, make more noise. I'm sure that's not what that means, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay, so this is a car that can viably be tracked. It's a car that's happy somewhat chasing after an AMG GTR. And that's something I could never have said about the previous A45S. Now we're getting a lot of noise and a lot of drama on the track, but I really want to see how does that translate when we go on the road with this car, because that's 90% where this car is going to be used. But I'm really happy that for the 10% who would want to track something like this, it's quite at home, this A45 S here. The steering is great. The power does not feel underpowered, especially compared to the previous car. The handling is just different to before. You can really see the stiffening that we were showing you earlier that AMG have really concentrated on with this car. Yeah, it's a very impressive thing. So now, let's take it on the road. Okay guys, on the road in the A45 S. Now we've done the track, we've done the handling. All I really want to know on the road is perception of speed. How does this engine respond? Is it naturally aspirated feeling like they claimed? Oh God, that's nice actually. It's weird how you can't feel little things on the track, and what this engine really reminds me of is the 4-litre bi-turbo, which is not a bad thing. It's got that same kind of, like they said, naturally aspirated power curve. So lovely engine response, gearbox is good. That upshift, classic A45, reminds me of the first gen. And the best bit you'll enjoy daily is slamming your foot to the ground again and again in this car. It's so rapid. The other good thing about this engine is the much higher RPM we have at 7,200. It makes every gear shift that much more exciting. But I'm noticing I'm playing the exhaust tune just like I play it in my C63 Black. More randomized pops and bangs, a high RPM, and the bang on upshift. The fact I can make the music play makes it work for me. So we have to accept we're in a new era where sound is less, so it's definitely muted compared to even the facelift of the last one, which I thought was quiet. Probably even muted in terms of the sound of the bangs compared to the A35. I'm appreciating the steering that much more on real roads too. You guys will love the turn-in and feedback, and that new 4MATIC Plus gives you the confidence the old car never really could. Makes you want to drive faster and faster. In terms of suspension, a lot more comfortable than the previous A45, but still an AMG. You can see it's very much, you know, married to the road, so you have to bear that in mind. I am in comfort, and the good thing about driving in Madrid, we're getting the kind of roads that we would find in the UK. It is a bit bumpy, but it's certainly not where the old A45 was. So really, this car, I think, is what you expect it would be if you understand the mechanical changes that have happened. It's a much more mature car, thanks to the 4MATIC Plus, thanks to AMG torque control, the drift mode. It's much better in terms of the engine, the way that the power is delivered and the torque that you get, but it's still that daily usable AMG that we love the A45 for being in the first place. But now you can take it on track, you can chase Bernd Schneider in an AMG GTR and not look like a complete idiot. So as to the question of would I have an A45, I think the answer has to be yes. It is a more mature car. You get all of the benefits of MBUX and the new A-Class, but in a full fat AMG. Yeah, the sound is a little bit muted, but I can live with that given how good the dynamics are. And you can always go to a tune, you can go to Brabus, you can go to Rentec and make the sound more exciting. But I must say the thing that pleases me most is the engine. I can really see potential in this engine. It feels like it's being throttled. It can give much more power. The new A45 feels like the old car swallowed a proper sports car, took all the main benefits and somehow retained the hatchback charm. It's hugely fast, handles amazingly, yet has class-leading comfort and tech. So look forward to getting this car in the UK. We'll give it a full run. Until then, very impressed with this. I look forward to driving it again. Look forward to seeing what AMG do with this engine if they build upon it in the future. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that first look at the A45 S. Please do like, subscribe and share the video if you did. And as usual, I'm gonna have some more fun in AMG's new hot hatch baby.